Right, you lot, here we go again. Another video. This time I want to talk a little bit about the teams that potentially will get relegated today. So I'm filming this on the final day of the season, so it's very much up in the air. So I have to take from 4 teams, and the 4 teams that I'm going to discuss are clearly Norwich, Villa, Bournemouth and Watford. Obviously one will stay up and then that'll have to be thrown out the window. Now let's start with Norwich, because they have gone down. So Norwich had some decent-ish players in their team. That they were known quite early doors for playing some really nice football, and that really come down to 3 players. Ultimately, Pukki, Cantwell, and Emi Buendia. I think Cantwell is an interesting player, clearly a number 10, very comfortable on the ball, creates a lot of chances and has got an eye for goal. I think he would be a good player for us in terms of going forward. I've got question marks on him defending in a team like Norwich that I didn't really see their midfield getting back and tracking back and really putting in any tackles, and I think Cantwell was probably the biggest culprit for that. Buendia is someone that I do believe would fit in our team. He's created I think he's created the most chances in the league, or some crazy stat, I'll pull it up now. But he looks like a real player in terms of his work rate, which is really important for us. I've seen him track back on multiple occasions. He's tenacious, he keeps fighting for the ball. Yes, he can clearly play a number 10, but he can drift between the wing positions, the central positions, and just in behind the striker, so he's versatile. So I would like to see someone like Buendia join. I don't know what premium they're going to put on him. We all know the situation with Norwich where they haven't spent a lot of money, so they won't be under substantial pressure to sell any of their key assets, unless of course a massive bid comes in for any of them. Then you've got Bournemouth, who arguably are the second most likely team to go down today. Bournemouth have looked poor all season, in fairness. They haven't really landed a punch on anyone, if that makes sense. They're very weak at the back. You know, obviously Eddie Howe's very principled in how he wants his teams to play, and I think that's done them a disservice this year, where they've had to dig in sometimes and they've refused to do that and stick to that style of play. I like Josh King. I think he's a natural finisher. I think he's pacey, I think he's good in the air, he's a good overall striker, and we clearly need one. I'd be more than happy to take him off Eddie Howe's hands if he'd let us. Everyone knows about Callum Wilson, the geezer that tends to score against us most times. Obviously take that handball out of it. He is a very good striker, he's very clinical. He is, however, injury prone. He will command big wages in my opinion. He has played for England, so I suppose that's another caveat to it. Yeah, I would take him. Yeah, I would take him if he was available. I would be cautious over price tags. I think he'll command 25, 30. I don't believe that's what he's worth. I think more 15, 20. But obviously, if Bournemouth aren't in a position to sell, then that'll dictate a higher price tag. And the sort of wild card that doesn't really count, but kind of counts, is Ryan Fraser. He obviously left before the season started again, and he's free to sign with whoever. I would think that would be a no-brainer. Now, I don't want to play dumb in this sense, but he's Scottish, Moyes is Scottish. I think that plays a massive factor. Snodgrass is in the squad. That could play another factor in it, in terms of him wanting to join a team where he feels comfortable. I think Fraser's biggest attribute is his ability to register assists. I think not last season, but the season before last, he registered a lot of assists at higher than most top teams in the league. And for a team like Bournemouth with a player like that to have done that, shows he's talented. I can't profess to watching Watford too much, unless I watched them the other night, obviously. I like Capoue. I do like Capoue. I think he's got a great range of passing. I think he's strong. I think he would suit our midfield. I think he's too similar at this point to Souček, so I don't know whether it would be the most urgent of signings. But certainly, in terms of squad depth, I'd love a player like that to come in. Do you know who I would take? I would take Craig Dawson if he was available. Now, if he was on a cheap deal, 2 or 3 mil, I would take him for a 2-year deal, because he's dangerous at set pieces. And what are we good at? Set pieces. Even if he was a backup to an Ogbonna and a Diop, I would 100% take him. I think in games that potentially we're not going to have a lot of the ball, we need to take our chances. A box with Souček and Dawson in is frightening. I think there's some bargains in there. I think there's some players in there that we could nick. We know they've adapted to the league, these players. My biggest concern would be the premium that these clubs are going to put on them. And I think that's going to inhibit us from making the moves as quickly as we'd like. In terms of West Ham getting a business done for any of these players, do it within the next week, start looking at the deals, start setting them up and start putting the things in place. So until then, take care.